Welcome back. Today I'm going to go through another of my favorite Seiko videos, and today's video is going to cover a watch that I have in my collection, but in fact I'm actually still searching for. The one I have is great and I love it, and it's a really stunning piece, but I'd really like to find one on its original bracelet. The bracelet I have on this watch that we're going to go through today is a nice one, and it's a new old stock bracelet, but it is not the original. So I would like to find one, of course, with the original bracelet. And so first though, I'd really like to thank everybody who's watching who has trusted me with their watches. I think it's really nice to know that there are so many trusting folks out there that have decided to send me their really important possessions to allow me to service them. These things are really important. I would feel some real trepidation in sending my watches to anyone who I didn't know. And maybe these videos will serve to sort of humanize the other person on the end of the email exchange, and perhaps set some of your fears about the process at ease. I've done quite a few online evaluations and restorations, and some of the recent watches I've gotten in have been so good coming in that I've actually turned them back to their owners with some maybe cosmetic adjustments, crystals and things like that. But if your watch comes in and it doesn't need service, we're not going to service it. It is, perhaps against a business model of service every watch that comes in, but that's not the way I work. And I really want to let people know that, I'm going to give you an honest assessment every time I see a watch. So that said, today is about a watch I really like. I like it because it is unique. It has a distinction in the particular line of chronographs that it's from. So this is a 6139, but it is one that is, I would say, completely distinct in its outward appearance from all the other 6139s that are available and that Seiko produced. And so let's head to the bench and have a close-up look at my favorite 6139. All right, well, here we are at the bench. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of the more unique and one of my favorite 6139s. And here it is. Probably one of the more beautiful variations of the 6139 that's available. I hate to call any watch that was produced in the tens of thousands, if not millions, as rare. But you don't see these all that often. These are, so for those who don't know this watch, this is a JDM 6139 7010 chronograph that was produced, and this particular one was produced in 1970, so it's a May 1970 watch. So just turned 51 years old. It's amazing to think that something that's 51 years old looks as good as this. I have this on one of these razor style bracelets that I was lucky enough to find a few of that were in new old stock condition. So it's a really nice bracelet. But these came on this really neat sort of closely ribbed, these thin, if I can find a picture, I'll throw one up now. These thin, ribbed, sort of tight, I don't even know what to call them, but they're sort of like these little thin fingers that are just so unique. And these have this strange cutout shape here for the end link, which fits very nicely if you have the original. So I'm still on the market for one with its original bracelet, but this one will do for now because it's just so stunning. This watch doesn't show any service marks at the moment. It is running pretty well. I assume it was serviced but not marked. at some point in the past. They came in 2 variations. This is a speed timer proof dial, proof back. You can see here it's got the proof marks, proof. It is a yellow, or orange, I should say, orange handset. Some of them had this little bit of lacquer that perhaps was on the top of the button. This is a 2-part sweep. And I don't know much about why that was there, or perhaps why that one's missing. They also came a little bit later in the variation of these with a single part sweep. But because this is an earlier one, it has the 2-part. They are a JDM watch, so that means you get a conjugate day wheel. Yeah, they're just a beautiful, beautiful watch. I love the brushing, offset by this sort of, high polish bezel. This one, I think the crystal is original. It's got some scratching on it, but it's still pretty good. It's got the crown with a dimple, smaller pushers, these shorter pushers, horseshoe back. These have a bit of I'm always hesitant to take the advice of the internet and the ideas that are out there at face value. But supposedly the story goes that these were watches that were used by the Japanese security force. Now, of course, if you're a fan of World War II history, you'll know that after the war, occupied Japan was basically had U.S. forces, and they were banned from having their own military. So the Japanese security force was more of like a state police force that was utilized for domestic law enforcement. And supposedly in the 70s, early 70s, these were issued to those forces as a watch. Now, the reason I say this is the most distinct of the 6139s in terms of its outward appearance is because it's the only one, and maybe I'm wrong, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, the only one that I know of that has Arabic numerals on the dial. And I just find that so distinctly cool. I'm not sure why it is something that I like so much. I'm finding more and more that when I look at Seikos that are hard to find, they're generally the ones like this that have numerals on the dial. So there are some bizarre and unique versions of the Bellmatic that have a dial with Arabic numerals. There's some other ones too, but this one, it's so distinct in its look. It has this sort of matte dial with the Arabic numerals, these really cool orange features. I just find it so stunning. The case reminds me of other cases. So I have this one that's on my website, for example. This is a 6139. This is the 7020. So the 7010, 7020. There's also, again, another speed timer, 5 Sports. Just a really cool watch in its own right. But you can see some of the design cues between them that are similar. They have a sort of UFO style case with the brushing that extends over the top. That's the way this one is here. This one is a little more unique and distinctive in terms of its UFO-ness with this under polish here that you can really see quite well. But I think they're sort of siblings, if you will. This one has a turning bezel. This one does not. Just has a static tachymeter. This one is more of a timer rather than a tacky ring chronograph. But I just find this so stunning. It's really a great watch. It really just, to me, sort of epitomizes the distinction between what was available in Japan versus what was available for the rest of the world. They kind of made their own distinct watches. This is a high jewel count, of course. It's got the larger number of jewels, higher number of jewels. It just really, really is fantastic. All right, well, that's my current favorite 6139. I want to thank you for watching, and take care. Thanks again.